We need people out and about selling. If they know how to sell, then they will always, always succeed. If they know how to quote, that will not help them put money on the books. And we need them to go out and really figure that part out. All right, so we're going to talk today. Why is it so doggone hard to train people in insurance? It feels like it might be easier to win an Olympic gold medal sometimes. Training is one of those things that is a continuous battle. And I want to spend some time on this podcast walking through, one, why training is hard, but also what we can do about it. So at EPP, we've had, and thank you to this wonderful industry and this podcast and our podcast listeners, a lot of growth. We've actually put on, I think it's 5 new people since last Labor Day. So for a small company like ours, all remote, everybody's going a million different directions. That's a lot of bodies. And I think sometimes we forget how hard training is. So a lot of times it's like going ahead and learning a whole new language. So I want you to stop and imagine that you're tasked to learn a whole new language. Maybe it's Mandarin, maybe you know Mandarin, maybe it's Chinese, maybe it's Hungarian, whatever it is. And you're the age you are right now, and you realize that the older you get, the more your brain just wants to do the things it knows how to do. It doesn't really want to learn new things. Now, you might pick up a book. If you're going out there, you might learn a little bit, but to really dive in and learn, let's be honest, a lot of us shy away from that. So what we need to always focus on is how hard training really is on the trainee. Now, I would say that there's 3 components to good training. And the first component is, 1, you got to have a training plan. So many agencies wing it. It's like, sit with this person, take this website, go to this, webinar, which is great. But what ends up happening is a really unstructured training. So what happens then is training happens as work comes into the agency, as opposed to having a clear, concise, tailored approach. And what we did at EPP, which I think is really great, is, and I know agencies struggle, I don't want to hire a VA till they get this. I don't want to do this till they have everything perfect. But we sort of just said, hey, new hires, we kind of stepped in it. Everybody's going a million different directions. And we put everybody in the whole company, every single person. And during the month of November to December, we actually created our own internal school. It walks through all of our products, our programs, our logos, our verbiage, our brand. I mean, like everything that you could ever imagine. And we just had our newest hire start, which is a data hire that's going to run our reporting. And he was like, he's worked at Wells Fargo. He's worked at all these places. He's like, if we had this kind of training, I would have been able to get team members up so much faster. And I was like, we're on to something. So training is hard because a lot of times we don't spend the time on it. Now, imagine if you just were doing an endorsement in a carrier, you just recorded it and talked through it and threw it into a training library. Perfect, right? A lot of times we forget trainees like to see the whole big picture and then broken down into steps, but we teach them step by step by step as opposed to the whole picture. And I always tell people, when you start in insurance, you have no shortage of logins. You have like 7 majillion logins. And that might even be like on the low side. You have more logins than you know what to do with. And so when we end up training people and we forget, well, they know how to do an endorsement, but do they know how to do it in this company, and this company, and this company? Oh, and wait, and this company does this weird thing. Oh, and this company you came out here and it just takes forever on the download. There's all these quirks inside of all of our companies. So we say when you're training somebody on something new, you have to train them one time and let them do it. And that's the freaking first time. They have to do it 10 times underneath the same company till they get it. But if they haven't done it in a while, you lose those skills. And that's why training really needs a plan and needs to be succinct. One thing that I am super, super passionate about is you have to have milestones in the training plan. For example, for our new consultants, we have them go through sales training. Sounds right. We're a sales training company. And so they have to go through the sales training. Then they have to they have to listen to 3 different calls of each type of sales process call we have. And they have to hop on with a live other person to listen. And then they have to do 3 on their own. So literally they're listening to 9. And then that last time they're by themselves, we are not on, but we are on available via chat or text message in case they get stuck. So that's 10 experiences on one type of phone call. Now, there's all different agency shapes and sizes, different types of people, different objections. And so that's why we do it. But we actually end up having people get certified on different programs so that it makes it easier. So what if you certified your team on endorsements or cold calling or binding or quoting so that way they knew they passed, they had motivation, maybe there's a bonus in it, and they can get after it. But so many times we just say, sit with this person, sit with this person, sit with this next person, sit. We have our trainees sit And if that trainer is not a good trainer, guess what happens? Bad training. If the trainee is not learning the way that's best for them, whether they don't do well with listening, they don't do well with written, or whatever it is, they're not doing well. And we just wasted all this time. We end up in this like finger throwing battle of like, well, I showed them. Showing somebody something is not the same as training somebody. Training somebody is having patience. It's letting them skin their knees, letting them ask questions, being there with them, encouraging them and mentoring them so that you can set that tricycle off and you know that the training wheels are off and they're going to be okay. But so many times training is an inconvenience in agencies. So another thing that you're going to find, I hope you do download this because this is in our blog, but it's a weekly producer plan. So when we're training and onboarding new producers, this is gigantic. We force them into a plan. And I even force veteran producers into it because a lot of veteran producers have super bad habits. So the plan actually maps out week 1, week 2, week 3, up to 9 months. They have to check it in every week, where they're at with the training, what's working, what's not working, where their stumbling blocks were, and submit it every Friday. So if it's training and they're in training, that's what they do. If they're out producing, they have to say who they're prospecting, who they're quoting, how much time they're spending on each, where they struggle, where they got hung up. And it's amazing, the results. So why are the results so great on this free form that you can download from our blog? Well, one, producers who aren't producing can't really hide. We have a producer right now, and on her sheets, she's putting out there that she's prospecting 20 hours a week. There's no effing way she's prospecting that much. And there's not a lot of detail on it. So what I know is that we have somebody who's not really prospecting. Now, one of two things, you can get really mad about it, or you can use that opportunity to dive deeper and try to save this person. This person might have been on the agency for a long time, but you have to be open and honest and transparent. Transparency and vulnerability lead the way. Nobody's going to get fired for maybe overestimating their prospecting. Now, if it continues, yes, but when it's addressed, we can actually hit the nail on the head on and help a new producer. Now, one thing I will tell you about producers and sales training is you got to get them making phone calls quickly. If you're in sales and you can always pick up the phone and learn how to make phone calls, you will never start. But where producers get all tweaked up is they think they're above cold calling, or they haven't done it enough, or the agency just starts feeding them warm leads. All is good, but getting on the phone, getting at networking events, if you don't get that stuff going early, people don't stick. They'll always be waiting for you. I call that the drug dealer syndrome. It's like, when can I get my next lead? When can I get my next lead? When can I get my next lead? I didn't sell enough because you didn't give me enough leads. And that's a real toxic environment. Now, if that's their rule and they're strictly inbound, fair enough. But even inbound people can make outbound calls. They can follow up on last quotes. Got to get them active in some kind of sales pipeline. I think the other thing to do with producer training is role playing, is going out with them, getting them used to a day in the life. You need to get in that rhythm quickly. And this is like a rub in insurance where some school of thought say you have to teach them all of insurance before they go out. I don't agree with that because I say they have a team back here. If we don't get them selling, it's going to take forever to get them out and selling. The second school of thought is we get them out selling and we use a team of insurance professionals there to support them. That is what we advocate for because we need people out and about selling. If they know how to sell, then they will always, always succeed. If they know how to quote, that will not help them put money on the books. And we need them to go out and really figure that part out. When you're training people, you need to have a plan. You need to identify who's training. And then when you say who's training, both the trainer and the trainee need to sign off that they understand what's happening, that they are 100% good. There is no issue. All is well in the Western world. I know this. The trainee says they know it. And so now we can go back to that documentation. But so much time is spent and we spend so much money on trainees that don't make it. And then we say, you know what? There's some trainees that they didn't hit their milestones, right? We talked about that earlier in the podcast. So we have to hit milestones along the way. And if they're not hitting those, that's a different story. But if the trainer is not presenting the content to go be trained on, that's a problem. And if there are no milestones, we can't tell. So then everything becomes feelings. And one day the agency owner is just like, I feel like this person's not succeeding and it's a drain on my payroll, so I'm going to let them go. But we really should evaluate training, boot camps, what that looks like so that we can indoctrinate new people quickly. Because those new people left a job or were, putting their trust in us. Now, granted, again, they have their responsibility to take the training seriously, but so do we. And when everybody who's training somebody is always too busy, they don't have time, or they're trying to do everybody's jobs at the same time, you're going to end up with a bad training experience. When I first got into banking, I was shipped off for 3 weeks 45 minutes away to go to a fake bank to learn it. Now, this was teller transaction. This was not rocket science, but they didn't want the branches teaching us. Once we got to a branch, we got a mentor and that was much easier. But if we weren't going to be able to pass it, they cut it off. Now, small agencies can't do that. I totally understand, but it was a great experience to understand how that investment in training would pay off. So think about it this way. Understand your training plan, understand what you're trying to accomplish, and then really work hard to understand, hey, do we have a clear training plan? Use the blog that we have there. Use us. We love sales training. So you can go into our online school and there's a sales training course, commercial and personal and cross-selling. There's also, go ahead, we could do it live. If your whole producer team needs help, that's another option. So when in doubt, know that you have resources, but check out our blog, check out our resources. And at the end of the day, make sure you have a solid training plan so you don't waste your valuable time.